Hi, this is DarkFox127 and welcome to another Scrum Creation Kit tutorial video. Today we are going to be working with creating your very own home. This is the 6th video in my scripting tutorial series, so if you haven't gone and seen the other videos and you're not that familiar with scripting, then I recommend that you go and check those out first, because I won't be recovering a lot of the basics. Now, a lot of people have been asking for this for quite some time after seeing my Millwater Retreat mod, or at least what I did with the updated version. People have seen my Riverside Shack mod as well. If you haven't seen those, check them out. Links will be in the description. And people wanted to know how to do a Hearthfire style building system. Now, it's not that complicated at all. The script's really quite simple, and I'll guide you through that in a moment or two. But the first thing that we want to do is decide what we're going to be enabling and disabling. So it's going to be the entire building here, the main building. The door I'm not going to bother with, that we could do sort of separately. And I'm also going to be enabling this sort of bed in here. Now, I'm not going to bother with every single item. We'll be here all day. I'm just going to show you how to do a couple of different methods for enabling things. So the bed is a single item, that's nice and simple, but the main build here is actually a load of items, so we're going to want to link them to an X marker, and we should have done that in a previous tutorial for scripting, but I'll recover it anyway, and we're going to have to do that. So I've gone under world objects here and static, and I'm going to look for an X marker. I'm going to drag and drop that in, put that in front of the door. Unique ID of DFX, whoops-a-daisy, main build, and I'm going to set that to initially disabled. So this will be disabled, and anything linked to it will also be disabled, so we'll have to build it. Now I'm going to link all of these sort of main building items, so I'm holding down the control key, oh, not the door, and then I'm just selecting everything. Nice and simple. And I'll show you a trick to make sure that you've got everything that you wanted to select selected. So if you just tap one twice and it hides everything that you wanted to sort of select, tap it again, you're all good to go. And I'm going to hit the sort of dash or underscore key next to the 0 on the keyboard. And as you can see, this is called the batch action menu, and this allows you to select a whole host of things and then set their sort of properties in one big go, rather than have to click on individual items and then link them all individually to the X marker. So we're going to click set enable parent for this. We're going to go link reference in the render window, double click the marker, click do, and you should see all these lines linked to everything. That will show that you've done it correctly. So like I said, all of these items will now copy the state of the X marker. So if the X marker is disabled, all of these items will be too. So there we go. And the bed I'm also going to go and set as initially disabled, but that's a singular item, so no need to link it to anything. And the way that this system works is you use a miscellaneous item. So you use the crafting bench, like the one from Hearthfire, or anything that you really want. You could use a forge if you wanted, but I'm going to use the Hearthfire bench. Now, the previous tutorial I did for a crafting system will show you how to make the bench. I'll go through it really quickly here because I'll have to make one. And what it does is we'll create a miscellaneous item which shows up in your own crafting menu, and we'll create that item. That item will then be added to your inventory. It will enable what it's supposed to enable to make it look like something's being crafted, and then it will remove itself from your inventory, and it'll do it that quick that you won't even notice that something was placed in your inventory in the first place. So the first thing we're going to need is obviously our workbench. So here's the carpenter workbench from Hearthfire. Just ignore any errors, it's just sort of standard with the kit. And as you can see, there's actually a script on here. Now, I haven't gone in and seen how Hearthfire does it, and before you say, well, you couldn't do it anyway, because if you go edit source, it's not actually there. It's just hidden in the BSA, and you can use sort of Fallout Archive to snag it out and take a look at what Bethesda's done. But anyway, we're not going to use that script. I haven't checked it out, I haven't seen how they do it, but I imagine it's some sort of similar system. Apart from they've got it linked up with the workbench itself. What I'm going to do, first thing I'm going to do, is just make a unique version of this workbench. So give it a unique ID, and it's going to be Dark Fox's workbench. And the first thing is just to confirm that, create a new form so you don't overwrite the original, and then you just want to go open it back up again. Now the reason I've done that is because if you sort of change the name of the one that you're editing and then change all the options, add, remove keywords, add a script, and then confirm it, make a new form, it tends to forget everything that you've just changed, and you need to confirm it first. So now that I've done that, I'm just going to remove that script. I'm not going to use that at all. We're not even going to have a script on the workbench. It's all going to work off the items themselves. And I'm not going to bother with any of these tick boxes up here. My previous tutorial will tell you about those. And everything else seems to be set correctly. The only thing we need to do is remove this keyword here. B-H-O-H, B-Y even, B-Y-O-H, building carpenter. We need to delete that, because that decides that the Hearthfire recipes all show up on this workbench, and we want them not to show, and we want to make a keyword for our own recipe. So we're going to create a new one, DFK bench. There we go, DFK bench, and then we'll link that to our recipes, which we'll see shortly. And you can leave all the other keywords, that's absolutely fine. Click OK, and I'm just going to drop this in to the render window. Put that just there. In fact, no, we'll put it there, right in front of the home. Now one thing, even though I'll show you in a moment that I'll use a sort of fade when you create an item, so everything's done behind the curtains, if you will, that doesn't always work foolproof, and you still see items sort of pop in your face and appear. So what I tend to do with my mods in the design itself is try and make it so that wherever you've placed the workbench, it's usually facing away from the home like that. In fact, I'll do that now just to sort of demonstrate, so that the camera's automatically facing in this direction, and then when you craft something, it all happens. By the time you've come off the workbench and looked, it's already enabled itself, and it's not going to sort of pop up in your face. That's just a nice little sort of trick you can do there, so it doesn't ruin any immersion. So now we've got the workbench, we have to create the item itself, and this is where the scripting will also come in. So if we go miscellaneous item, I'm going to go ahead and just do the main build first. So whatever your item is, whatever your item looks like, this is usually what you see in your crafting menu. So in terms of the house itself, because I haven't got a mesh that's like the full built house, then I just use something nice and simple that sort of represents that we're building something. So I use the blacksmith hammer there, and that will show up in the crafting system menu, and it will be like you're obviously just building something. So that's nice and useful. Now something to mention about your miscellaneous items is, shortly when I make the bed, I'm just going to copy the mesh of the bed, and I'm going to use that in the crafting system. But the thing is, not all items, not all meshes are facing in the same direction. So what that means is you could just like copy a mesh and think that's fine, that mesh will be there, although you can spin it around sort of and look around it in the crafting system menu to see what you're crafting. Its standard direction that it's facing can sometimes be the wrong way. So for instance, if you were crafting a wardrobe, the wardrobe might be facing the wrong way, and you're actually looking at the back of the wardrobe to begin with. Now if you're handy with NifScope and all that, you'll be able to quickly go in and edit the original, create your own version, and just flip the wardrobe around. I'm not going to do that in this tutorial. I might do it in a future one, just to help you out with sort of miscellaneous item sort of facing the correct way. But the items that we use now should be fine. The bed should be fine, the hammer should be fine, but just as a warning, some things won't show up quite how you expect in the sort of the crafting system window. So I'm going to go ahead and use the hammer. I'm going to make a new version of it first. So DFI for item, and let's put house, because it's the main house that I'm going to build. I'm going to rename this to house. As for the weight, set that to 0, and the value to 0 as well, because we don't want it having any weight overcumbering you when it's temporarily added to your inventory and then giving you a notification on the top left that you didn't want to see, because it will again ruin immersion. So going to click OK, yes, make a new form, and just confirm that. Oops, confirm that like I did before. As you can see, we can now access the script as well. So keyword, want to add keyword, and this is where the keywords are going to determine where it shows up in the crafting menu, under what category. So is it iron, is it ebony? But in this case, because we're using the Hearthfire resources, we have access to the Hearthfire keywords. which also add new categories in the crafting menu. So if we type in what we're after, we want it to show up in the furniture section. It'll be build your own home, house crafting category furniture. So you're looking for category. So if you type in category and look for the house ones, you'll see all the available ones, or you can just sort of grab it on the wiki. It'll tell you what ones are available. And it's a bit of trial and error as well with the keywords to see if it goes in the right place. You only ever want one keyword at a time in terms of category, otherwise it might put it in the wrong place. So it might be a misc when it could actually go in house or wood. So now we're going to add a script. Now I've already gone ahead and typed this out, so we're not sort of sat here for 5 minutes waiting for me to type it out. If you get this error with your scripting, yet again click yes to all. I think it's the Dawn Guard DLC just throws that up. Nothing to worry about. So I've got this script here. You're going to want to make your own script, and as you can see, it's really simple. Really not a lot to it. Nice and easy, and I'll just describe it to you. So our properties are pretty easy to understand. We've got an object reference property, object to enable. That's the item that's going to be hidden and it's going to appear to be created. Message property, build message. I use a message box to pop up and show people, tell people even how long it's taken to build the item, so they know that 2 hours have passed. And the global variable property game hour, this is to tell the game how many sort of hours to pass. So it grabs the current game hour, and as you can see on that line there, it sort of makes it go forward so long, so it looks like time's actually passed. It's taken a while to create the item, unlike Hearthfire. Float property, time auto. This float property means that you can go into the properties, and for every single item you can set a different value. So we could set the value to 2, which would be how many hours we're going to have pass. So as you can see there, it states time. Miscellaneous item, craft item, that is the item that we're going to craft, so it's the thing we're actually editing now. And the reason that's important is because that's what it's going to remove. So if we just go through, we've got this event here, on container changed, object reference, AK new container, AK old container. Now you could make an if statement that makes sure that it's the player, but we know that the player is the only one going to be using this workbench and crafting the items, so we don't need to really worry about too much of that. Just make sure you've got that event as your sort of event for this, and not something like on activate. It's not going to work. It just detects that an item has been added to the player's inventory, in this case this item, and then knows to remove it and enable the stuff. Really simple. So we've got game.fadeoutGame false true to 3. The only thing you need to worry about is the numbers. You can change these around for how long it stays faded and how long it takes to fade. I've kept mine as 2-3. It's nice and short but long enough for this to hopefully take place. Game hour dot set value, so we're going to get the game value, so game hour value, what the current time is basically. And if we just go into sort of global under miscellaneous here and put in game hour, this is the global variable the game uses to say what hour it is. And as you can see, the value to begin with is 8, and you'll notice that if you use a test character and load up the game, sort of COC Riverwood like everybody does, it's always 8 o'clock in the morning, so you could technically change that if you wanted, but there's no need to. So we've got game hour there, and that's what we're going to be sort of adding time onto, so that's how we progress the time. So time there is whatever you've stated as your float property. So you'd make a message for it which would say so many hours passed, which we'll do in a moment, and then you'd set that same value on your float property, and that will pass time. So after it's done that, it's going to object to enable dot enable, so it's going to enable your item. In this case it's going to be the X marker, therefore that will enable the entire building. And then we've got to show our build message to say like, yep, okay, so many hours have passed. Now in that message you could also say maybe such and such item crafted and so many hours have passed, but I've stopped doing that because you automatically get a notification which you can't change when you craft an item on a workbench saying that it's been added. So you can't change that, so don't worry about it. Just have a message to say sort of how long has passed. Game.getPlayer, so the player, remove item, remove an item from the player, and it's going to be itself. It's going to be this item here. Now you're probably thinking, if you are reasonably good at scripting, why don't you just put self so that you don't have to state property? I've done that and it doesn't work. I don't know why, but it doesn't like removing itself. It likes to be told what itself is, so you have to state craft item, and the craft item will point back at itself. 1, how many? Well, we're only going to be removing 1. True is going to hide it from the notifications. It's not going to bring up a notification, meaning that we'll say, it'll come up with a notification going such and such added. Then it would show our notification saying so many hours passed, and then we don't want it showing another notification saying something has been removed from your inventory, because it's going to be immersion breaking and there's no need for it. So make sure that's set to true. And that is it. That is the script. You will control an S after you've got all that sorted out. I'll dump it in the description and have it downloadable as a notepad file on my website. All the links in the description. And all we have to do now is link up the properties. So spin the camera around. So for this, it's the house, and we're going to go enable, edit value, double click the X marker. Time, we're going to have this take 5 hours to do. Game hour, you can autofill. Crafting item, again, it's itself, so DFI house. Build message, we're going to have to make one. So if we go miscellaneous and message, alternate click and new, DF, M for message and house. Auto display and untick message box, because we don't want it a message box that you have to confirm every time you make an item. We just want it to sort of show at the top left of the screen. And we're going to put 5 hours passed. Okay. That should automatically update itself, but if it doesn't, just cancel it and go back in. Oh, we haven't set the other things, so we'll have to reset these. Game hour itself. X marker and 5 hours. So that's in hours automatically. And we'll go ahead and click OK. Now we're quickly going to make an item for the bed, which is going to be a little different. So I'm going to push that there a minute, and I'm going to go under furniture and bed. So I'm going to get the mesh that we're going to need for the miscellaneous items. So in this case we're using a single orc bed. Going to select that whole model, Control and C to copy it, cancel out so we don't change it, edit the model there, edit again, make sure you're under the meshes folder in your Skyrim data folder, and then paste it into the file name, Control and V. OK, make sure you've got that full sort of path name, otherwise it's going to glitch up and not work. Click OK, add. Now I think I made an error before I added the house to furniture. I want to add this to furniture, so I'll go and do that in a sec. DFI bed this will be. Call it bed, no value, no nothing. Can't add the script yet because we've created a new item. Click OK. We'll go DFI into miscellaneous. So I'll just go back to house, and what I'm actually going to do is add this to the exterior category of build your own home. And we'll see that working game shortly. There we go. Now I'm going to go into bed, and I'm going to add the same script. And then I'm going to want to select the bed itself. Time, I'm going to say 2 hours this time. Craft item, again, that's going to be itself. Click OK, go ahead and make our message. And 2 hours passed. So you could edit the script and you could make it do some other things if you really wanted. I don't know what, but it's entirely up to you. Now all that's left is to get those to show on the workbench itself, which is over there, and we do that via recipes. So we want to go under items and constructible and new. The created object is going to be the miscellaneous items, so we'll do the bed first. I'll put DFR for recipe and bed. The required items list, what items you're going to need. I'm just going to put firewood. You could add like linen wrap and things like that, but I'm going to make this easy for testing. Created object count is going to be 1, and the keyword needs to be the keyword we created for our workbench, so it knows which benches it needs to go on. So any benches with that keyword, which will in this case be ours, it will go on to. Now conditions really interesting. This is where we're going to stop it from showing up in the crafting menu once it's been built, so we don't want to build the home and then still have the option in the crafting menu to build the home because it's already there. So if you use the get disabled condition function and then select reference, and the reference in this case is going to be the bed, so we need to see that in the render window. Select your bed, the thing that you want to check is disabled, and it should automatically be on equal to and the value as 1. So it's going to go, if this bed is disabled, the condition is met, it will show in the menu. As soon as you craft it, it will automatically realise that it's no longer disabled, so the condition won't be met, it will be removed from the menu. Click OK. OK again, and I'm just going to sort of cheat this time. I'm going to go back into it, rename it as house, OK, new form, go back in, make the right adjustments, leave it as firewood for testing, and then just change the reference to the X marker this time. There's a good thing that's just happened. Some of my sort of windows have got hidden behind the other ones, and it's quite annoying because you have to start moving boxes. Well, don't do it, just hit save. It'll say you can't save because this hasn't been sort of closed, and you'll get access to them again. Little sort of tip there. Select the reference, this time is going to be our X marker. So get that the marker's enabled or disabled, and that's all done. Click OK, click save, go in game, and those should be on our workbench now. So we'll go in game and check this out, should be fully working, and we have our own craftable home. Okay, so here we are, and as you can see the house isn't here at all. I took the liberty of disabling some other things and linking things together, and also creating a recipe for the door. So if we go to the workbench, as you can see in furniture we have the bed, and you can see what I mentioned about the sort of default position of the bed in terms of when you go into the crafting system. If you went into Nifscope, you could quickly sort of change the angle slightly and make your own version of it and link that to the miscellaneous object. But I'll cover that in another tutorial eventually. Now I've got the door there that I've gone ahead and made, and I've got the house. So they all require firewood at the moment. You can go ahead and make them require what you want them to require, really. But if we just go ahead and check what the time is first, it's 8:42. The bed should take 2 hours to create. Goes black. And if we look to the left there, you can see the bed's there. So another thing you could do with the conditions is get the disabled or enabled state of other objects. So you would only want to be able to make the bed when the house was there. So you'd set the relevant conditions to prevent that from happening, and then things appear and disappear in the menu that way. So let's go back to there. Oh, just check the time. As you can see, 10:52. It did take 2 hours to create. Make the door and the house. Now if you do things too quickly, the fade thing doesn't work, but usually everything still activates in terms of scripts, and you can see the notification showing up there. And we've got the house now, we've got the door, got all the other items. Just use a torch here, we can still see the bed. Everything's here, all works, and you've just got to tweak it a bit, change your sort of conditions on your recipes, make more recipes, set things up. I will cover things eventually like going into Nifscope and creating your own quick meshes to make things look better and make better sort of menu choices. So that is it. I hope you found the tutorial helpful. Please leave comments in the below, let me know what you think. Hit the like button if you like the video, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and thank you very much for watching, and I'll speak to you next time.